Welcome back, sleepyheads, to another episode of Sleepy Aliens Perspective. I am your host, Leigh. Thank you for tuning in. I think the lights are always just gonna do something different every time I record. I don't think it's been the same thus far, but there's my whole face, so you can see, because I know my glasses are reflecting. They're doing a lot right now, but I'm enjoying wearing these. I wasn't sure if I was gonna wear glasses on here because I was like, will you be able to see it well? I wasn't very sure how it would all look and come together, but I like wearing my glasses. I love glasses. I think glasses look great. I like cheap glasses. I like multicolored glasses. I can't do black frames. They age me. They make me look older. Even though I love black frames, of course, like thick, big ones. I bought these glasses because I wanted something that looked like Edna's from The Incredibles. So, yeah. But I don't want to get too off topic because we are doing part 2 of our deep dive. And, since I've been doing more research for this topic and everything I'm diving into for it, I finally have a comprehensive overview of what it is. I think I was still building when I recorded the first episode, but now I'm really confident with where I'm at with it. But before we start, I do want to give a heads up to anybody watching. This is going to be sensitive content. How do they say it? Viewer discretion is advised. I don't know why, my trigger is to go for a man voice. But I know in a past life I've been a man, a devious man, I think. But I have been a man in a past life for sure. But yeah, so this episode does contain sensitive content. And for those of you who don't know, there is a lot of word sensitivity, censorship on YouTube. And if you say certain words, no YouTuber can be fully certain, but apparently it does trigger certain things in the algorithm that could suppress your video. So I won't be able to say, you may just have to guess what I'm trying to say, but I won't be able to say sexa blank. I can't say that word. So instead of saying that, I'm going to say offense and offenders, and particularly I will be saying child offense and child offenders. But now let's begin part 2 of our deep dive of sex trafficking, information suppression, and communities. I am really fucking organized right now, and I am proud of myself. But yes, so in 2021, former Oregon House Speaker David Hunt was arrested in a sex trafficking sting. He was soliciting services online. So David Hunt served the Oregon legislature from years 2003 to 2013. I don't know why that got twisted in my tongue. David is one of 8 men nabbed in a sex trafficking sting. Cops posted decoy ads to lure offenders. On April 28, 2021, David was charged with commercial sexual solicitation. So in Oregon, commercial sexual solicitation is a Class A misdemeanor. It is punishable up to 1 year in prison and has a fine of $6,250. So David Hunt, this case doesn't involve children, but I think David Hunt is a great example of how high-profile community members and major institution leaders get involved in sex trafficking. And also, how they solicit these illegal services. So, I mean, that's something I wanted to highlight, and David Hunt is a great example. And the next thing I'm going to read to you will really make you choke. So, the last thing I want to note is that in 2007, David Hunt co-sponsored a bill to criminalize sex trafficking in Oregon. So there's that dichotomy, and we're going to get into more of that because we have so many examples of this. So in 2021, Republican Matt Gaetz, ally of Trump, was investigated for trafficking a minor. Matt Gaetz has been serving as a U.S. representative since 2017, the same year that Trump was sworn into office, of course. Matt is being investigated for paying a minor to travel with him and engage in sexual acts. The federal investigation of Matt Gaetz includes the investigation of Florida local Joel Greenberg. Joel was a tax collector for Seminole County. And I don't know if I said this already, but Matt Gaetz and Joel Greenberg are friends. And they are also friends with somebody else, a Mr. Roger Stone, out of all people, which is really random. Roger Stone. So all these guys just party together and hang together, you know? And what do they say? Birds of a feather flock together. And they're all looking alike. And it's all suspect, I think. But so, yeah. Clearly, Matt Gaetz picks great friends. I mean, just come on. Like, I can't imagine what their dinner conversations would be like. I just, ooh. It'd be like listening to teenage boys who, like, murdered their parents and somehow got to live in a mansion together, and they had all this disposable income and got to make all of these adult decisions, you know. And that was a lot, but, you know, that's kind of where my mind went. I just went with it. But let's get back into this. So Joel Greenberg was indicted for sex trafficking during the summer of 2020. Joel pled guilty to child trafficking and other federal charges. I just realized I said child sex trafficking. I mean, I think that should be a safe thing to say on YouTube, but probably not. Who knows? But yeah, so Joel pled guilty to those charges May 17th, 2021. So Gaetz denies allegations, and he says he didn't know the girl was a minor. However, prosecutors do have a witness that says Matt knew. So during the course of the investigation, Matt has been quoted saying, and this is actually really comical, and considering the heaviness of like where this episode is going to lead, I'm glad we have this comedic moment of Matt Gaetz. So Matt Gaetz, thank you so much. But yeah, so Matt is quoted as saying, "The last time I had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old, I was 17. He is also quoted as saying, "I have a suspicion that..." Hold on. This one really gets me. I thought I'd be able to read that one, but that's actually harder than I thought. Okay. Okay. This is why I have respect for all comedic actors. Okay. I have a suspicion that someone is trying to recategorize my generosity to my ex-girlfriend. Okay. It's the recategorize that gets me. Like, recategorize, when you have to familiarize, when you have to like formalize the bullshit that you're trying to speak, it's only comical at the end of the day. Sometimes you just have to like get it out really quick. Okay. I'm gonna get it this time. I have a suspicion that someone is trying to recategorize my generosity to ex-girlfriends as something more untoward. So clearly Matt is suffering from a classic case of I can't shut the fuck up. Like, just stop talking. Like, clearly he sounds like a kid who's like saying anything from any angle to persuade people to believe him. I mean, it's really it's really pathetic, but it's also really, really funny. God, he's such a he's like, yeah, what, yeah. Yeah, comic relief, yeah. And also, he just gave us the impression that he is also having affairs with his exes and giving them money on the side. I mean, way to implicate something that nobody was fucking even talking about. So, yeah. So, the FBI investigation, the FBI is still investigating this currently. So maybe we'll hear about this in 2023. You know, we'll probably hear that somebody got their charges dismissed because he has friends in high places. I wanted to sing another song, but God, there's just so many things you have to think about these days as you're talking on YouTube. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. But damn, that was good to laugh. That was nice. So thanks, Matt Gates. Of course, we cannot forget Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein has his little black book of elite business associates, and he has also donated to Elliot Spicer's campaign, Bob Packwood, and Bill Clinton. And each of those men have been accused of sexual misconduct. So, just interesting. So interesting. And we'll just leave it at that. So the case of Jeffrey Epstein is a repeat American tale. And the story of Dr. Tom Philpott will shed some light on that. So Dr. Tom Philpott was a key researcher and activist in the fight against elite child trafficking. So, God, sorry, I got nervous about saying those words again. Excuse me. I just like, you know, when you just get started, you just don't want to like, gosh, this is the things you have to think about. Anyways, so he's a key researcher and activist who was fighting against child trafficking in the 70s and 80s. So basically he did a bunch of research and made the documentary Boys for Sale. And this documentary came out in 1981. So in addition to his child advocacy work, Philpott was also a beloved professor. He was a history professor at the University of Texas. He actually had like a, I don't know, I had like, as I was researching about him, like, I could just tell he was good-natured, like, and I say that like, let's say you come across a stray dog and something about the dog tells you that it's okay to approach them and the dog is okay with that too. It would be that kind of like feeling, you know, that's what I felt as I was doing research about Tom. And then like he's just a really courageous person who researched something like, you know, out of his scope, and I don't think he realized that it was going to get as deep as it did. But yeah, very brave person. But yeah, so he was a history professor at the University of Texas. So Philpott was not a man of limitations. Like his bravery, when I say brave, when I call somebody brave, it means like whew, you know, holy shit, like that would bring me to my knees with fear of like, what the fuck did I just do? What am I doing? You know? His activism extended to the world of academia. So not only was he advocating for children, but Philpott was advocating for academic freedom. So in 1975, he was involved in a case with other professors at the university against the university for retaliatory wage decreases. And they believed their First Amendment was being violated. And basically, Philpott also felt that his academic freedom was being suppressed. And we'll get into, so 6 years before this documentary, Boys for Sale, comes out, there's this lawsuit, and Philpott is experiencing wage decreases. Now, when you Google Tom Philpott, it's really hard to find information about him. Really hard. Like, there is no Google profile, despite, like, the positive things that he's done. And when his documentary came out, it's hard to find, like, information on this, but most people say that there's smear campaigns, and Philpott was made to look like a quack, and like they just tried to, you know, diminish the value of his work in the public's eye, right? So, so this lawsuit happened 6 years before the release of Boys for Sale. So I couldn't find anything that made it clear that the university knew about Philpott's research and was trying to thwart his efforts with like the issues with his wages, you know? So I couldn't find anything that could attest to that. But I mean, those dates, I mean, if we're talking a documentary, and first we're talking research. So that's that's like multiple years of research, multiple years of interviewing, traveling. And then if we're talking about film production, that's like a year for like, you know, preparation. So it's very likely that Tom started this work, and, you know, he went to his own like department chair about it and was like, I'm gonna do this. I want funding for this. And that's maybe how the university leaders and the Board of Regents got word of it, you know. So yeah, I don't know if I said that before, but yeah, the lawsuit was against the university leaders and the Board of Regents. But yeah, so that happened 6 years before. I think that's extremely suspect, you know? So Philpott was also involved in protest advocating for the fair treatment of Iranian students, and he also was arrested in a protest fighting for the desegregation of South Africa. So Philpott was really like, he was for the people, and he was for equality and peace, you know. It's very inspiring. But yeah, so like I was saying, if you Google Philpott, nothing comes up. Not a lot comes up. I mean, there's a lot of sites where you can find where they knew about his work, and there are some legitimate articles out there, but none detailing like his work, nothing. It's hard to find things that talk about the documentary. But yeah, it's definitely been scrubbed from the mainstream awareness. So I'm glad I'm doing this because Tom's work was significant, and I definitely think it deserves to be pushed forward, you know. And I think, you know, if you've been like, I don't know, like denounced from the internet, essentially exiled, I think that says a lot about the impact of your work at the same time. So yeah. So yeah, like I said before, Tom had his documentary Boys for Sale, and again, that was about, I mean, he investigates child trafficking, and he investigates teenage male prostitutes. And I have to say, the documentary started out by just investigating these teenage male prostitutes that he encountered in Houston, and he was just shocked that there were so many of them. And slowly these prostitutes would reveal to him that their clients were public officials, you know, public, just high status community members, and Tom was shocked. So that's when he really got into the sex trafficking. But I don't even know if he like really put it to those words, if that was like a word. I mean, I guess it was, yeah, there was a word for it then. Anyways, so two of the major topics that Tom covers in the documentary is the Boy Scouts Troop 137 case. And also, like I said before, the teenage male prostitutes in the South. So let's dive into the first. Yeah, this is when it gets a little heavy, heads up. But it's important information, and we're here for it. So the Boy Scouts Troop 137 involves the offense and trafficking of New Orleans Boy Scouts in the mid-70s. So I'm going to note a few facts about this case. Fact number one, offenders implicated in this case were of a high status in the community, and they were also leaders within major institutions. Fact number two, this is like, oh my God, this one really kills me. It's absolutely fucking sadistic. So these troop leaders, as they were like seeking to establish this Boy Scouts troop, they scour neighborhoods to recruit these boys, but they knowingly scour neighborhoods looking for boys in homes with single mothers of a low income status. So yeah, they were searching for these low income, vulnerable children. Like, it's crazy how they just like, they all, like, that is the key characteristic that these offenders search for in their victims, and it's poverty. God, it's fucking bonkers. So, fact number three. So once the troop leaders established the troop, they basically got permission from these single moms to start taking the boys overnight. And that's when the boys were trafficked from different areas in the city and also outside of the city too. And the network of this like trafficking ring that these troop leaders built extended when these, not even the implicated community members, but outside people would fly in to also offend these boys. So it was a whole network. And I want to note that this is like pre-World Wide Web, which started in 1993, and this is pre, of course, cell phones, pagers, all of those things that really make a criminal's life pretty damn efficient, right? And so that's why like these offenders had to prey on boys within these organizations, because these organizations provided a consistency for them to offend, you know? And I want people to think about that, like how, like, did this start, you know? Like they really legitimately like maintained this organization to maintain offending. Like I can't even believe that it was built on any good standing at this point, because, you know, based on the research I did and the documents of official court documents in one case, like Boy Scouts started in the 1940s, and they were hiding. They had a list of offenders within the organization, and that started in the 1940s. So like that's terrifying, and that's disgusting, and we'll get into more of that. But yeah, so a survivor of the New Orleans Troop 137 is Richard Windmann. Richard Windmann is another courageous earth angel, like one of those people where you're like, how the fuck did they survive that? Like, that's extraordinary. So Richard currently, I believe he is alive. I think so. He's one of also those people. He's another person who is kind of scrubbed from the internet, and it's hard to find information about him. He doesn't have a full profile, but he does have an organization I was able to find where he does help survivors of childhood offense, which is really beautiful. Like, what a transformation, right? So when Richard was a boy, he was personally offended by troop leaders, a detective who commanded the child offense unit, a priest from the Catholic school he attended, as well as a janitor. Like, that's the kind of shit that will shatter your reality, because you have all these key public figures that are supposed to be of good intentions, and they are destroying, somebody's reality. It's out of this world. That's tragic. But, he survives. And Windmann describes himself even better as a warrior. And I love that. I think that's powerful. And I think having that dichotomy of, where he started to where he is now, it's a beautiful thing. And even though, who knows if we'll ever be able to stop, the human trafficking in this world, but at least we have great examples of people who survive it. And I think that's worth something. And Richard Windmann is a really good example of that. But yeah, let's get back into it. So in 2012, Windmann publicly demanded Boy Scouts of America reveal offenders within their organization. And he said they need to be transparent, which is really powerful. I mean, and he went through a lot in his healing journey, and that didn't happen until, I think he had to be in his 40s during that time, possibly. I think. I'll have to double check. But this led to the Boy Scouts releasing a list of offenders within their organization. But let's think about that. So that happened in 2012, so that's 9 years ago. And then if we think at least mid-70s, 1975, that's 37 years. That's 37 years of a non-essential, let me fucking say this again, a non-essential organization suppressing essential information that could help get offenders off the street and give victims a space to come forward. I mean, that really killed me. I was like, what the? Yeah, that really killed me. Yeah. So in the information that they released, there was a total of 7,800 scout leaders who were involved in the trafficking ring. And so this was nationally. And they were listed, and these people in this database, they were listed by name and state, and it's public. You can find this database online. There was an estimated 12,000 victims. Yeah, 12,000 victims, and estimated. Because what? These people were too afraid to come forward. And when you have police officers and priests and people that you are supposed to look up to, offending you, no way, why the fuck would I come forward? Yeah, so I don't blame them. So who knows how many are really out there. And it has definitely been stated that there are people that have still been left off the list of offenders. And if you think about the Troop 137 case and the fact that there were people outside of the organization within New Orleans who were also offending these boys, like the detective and the priest and the janitor, if you think about those people and just the way these patterns need that repetition to really repeat, it's not unlikely to say the same thing was happening in a different state, right? Like it was happening in a different state the same way, and there was other outside officials within those communities and more people who are being ill-informed and don't really know what's happening in their environments. I mean, it's not an irrational thing to say. You know, it kind of feels like a stretch, but it's not a stretch. So I did say I was going to do a 4-part thing with this episode, but honestly, I'm trying to like keep the videos like not too long because I realize I'm new and not everybody's gonna be like, I don't even know that girl, and her video is like 54 minutes, so I'm trying to cut them down a little bit, but we're gonna pick this right back up. So this is part 2 of my deep dive. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting me. Let me know in the comments what you think, and if you've had any experience where you've learned about things in your communities, about public officials that you trusted, and how are you healing from that, and how do you come to this space to remember that there's good people within those organizations, and it sucks that these bad apples like suppress all of their good intentions. And I wish we heard more about those cases, and I wish it wasn't like that cheesy shit where you see like cops like, you know, doing a good deed and it's all on film when they suddenly want to allow a fucking camera, right? So oh, I'm ranting, but yeah, it's not like, it shouldn't be cheesy like that, right? But yeah, anyways, that was part 2. I forgot where I was going with that. That's okay. Thanks for tuning in, and even though it's a spell, like, share, subscribe. Bye. Good night, sleepyheads.